Hi, welcome to Clubs and Culture. I'm hoping to get this up on February 2nd, but it might be February 3rd or 4th. It's going to be my end of the year review and Oscar predictions and commentary, so this is going to be a longer video. Anyway, so it's going to have the same conventions as last year. I'm going to list the categories, and then the posters or the image is my order of preference. So the last one is the one I want to win, and then I'll say which one I think is going to win. There's that, and then I'm also going to talk about my top 10 lists and honorable mentions for the various films. So let me bring up the honorable mentions. So see you in a sec. Okay, so the first honorable mention is this little movie called Alpha, which is this very bizarre movie to come out in the summer, and it's sort of like a Shaggy dog story, and it's a fictionalized account of how dogs got domesticated, and it's in a made-up language, and it's very, very visual, very, very cinematic. It actually sort of reminds me of a Terrence Malick film, but much not as sprawling and not as utterly alienating. And it basically came and went, and I swear I'm like the only person who saw it, and I ended up really, really liking it because it was a very, very unusual film to watch in the summer because it seemed much more like an art house thing. Similarly, I think the best thriller of the year was this great little movie called Searching, which is told it's like a digital pot boiler in that everything is told from the perspective of a computer screen, and through social media, Facebook, spreadsheets, and everything like that. So it's sort of like watching a Clubs and Culture video, in the sense that it's all about the way in which our lives are becoming digitalized. And then not similarly, but the other film that was really good this year is, of course, because I'm such a big Rocky fan, is Creed 2. I think it's actually the third best Rocky film behind the first Rocky and Creed 1. The part of it that I liked the most was the Drago story, or the implied Drago story, to the point where I kind of want a Drago film, because that whole thing, and I guess this is sort of spoilers, about Ivan Drago being a mama's boy and her leaving the family because he lost in Rocky 4, I thought was a really good move in the screenplay, because it made the film very, very resonant and made Rocky 4 better. But of course, just outside the top 10 list is the great little film, the John Hughes-esque gay love story, Love, Simon. I'm really kind of sad that this movie did not get any attention in the award season for like even the Golden Satellites, and online critics, which tend to be a little bit more diverse, basically ignore this. I think it's basically just a victim of when it was released, because it was released in April. Okay, anyway, so that's going to be it for the honorable mentions. Let me bring up the first categories. Okay, starting with Best Foreign Film, because this is the easiest category to predict this year. It's going to be Roma, because Roma is nominated for 9 other Oscars, including Best Picture, Director, and Screenplay, and 2 acting awards. So obviously, the foreign language, obviously the Academy really responded to this movie, so it's going to win Best Foreign Language Film, at least basically a shoo-in. I've seen Roma. I haven't seen any of the others, so I really don't have a preference in this category. Roma's okay. I like the film visually, and I like the acting in it a lot. I think the screenplay is ultimately very hollow, and sort of directionless and rudderless. So I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. But anyway, so it's going to win easily going to win foreign language. Okay, I'm going to do the 3 shorts because I have absolutely no investment in this. I've only seen 1 animated short, which is Bayo. Anyway, I'm going to guess that Skin is the short film, live action short film this year, because it deals with race. And that seems to be where the Academy likes to honor films dealing with race over the last few years. So there's that. And then for the animated short, I'm going to guess Bayo, and it's entirely based off of the fact that it's a Pixar film. With that being said, this is a short film I've actually seen, and I thought it was magnificent, so that would make me happy if and when it wins. And then for the documentary short, I'm going to guess Endgame, based entirely on the notion that it seems, just reading the description, that it seems like something the Academy would like. I have no idea. I've not seen them. I've struggled with seeing these films. Anyway, so that's going to be it for the shorts. Let me bring up the documentary. Okay, for the best documentary feature, I'm going to guess RBG, the infamous Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's derived sort of based off of the content, and it seems because of the liberal tendency to like Ginsburg, and then also it seems the most anti-Trumpian documentary nominated, based off of reading the descriptions. I've seen some of the documentaries that were in the conversation, but I haven't actually seen any of the ones nominated. So let me bring up number 10 on my best list. Okay, coming in at number 10 on the best film list that I'm putting together is the Marvel film Black Panther. I absolutely enjoyed this film from beginning to end. It's one of the few comic book films that deal pretty directly with real world issues because of Killmonger's motivation, and then also it's sort of a utopian version of an African country if it was not spoiled by Western colonialism. I think the movie was best at developing Wakanda as a setting and a place, with different factions and different groups, because the Wakandians as a nation didn't seem monolithic. A lot of that's in the visuals. If I had one complaint, I would complain that it's too much. It would be too much like Hamlet. Turning now to animated feature, this category this year I thought was pretty good. Unfortunately, The Incredibles 2, I know I'm in the extreme minority on this point, but I thought that film was fucking terrible, because it's basically Incredibles 1 with just the genders reversed, and it feels incredibly regressive, so I hope to God it doesn't win. I think Spider-Verse is going to win, which is good. Ralph Breaks the Internet was okay. It was a pleasant way of spending, 90 minutes or whatever, but it's very much a sequel. It's nothing new or anything like that, and it's still a weird concept. Mare, Japanese one. I hope I'm saying that right. That was pretty good. It seemed a little bit twee to me. Isle of Dogs, I think, has an outside chance of winning because of Wes Anderson being the director and this being a pretty personal thing. As a film, I thought it was pretty good. Visually, it's great. There's a lot of things that's weird about the story in the Isle of Dogs, such as the choice to have the dog speak English, but it's being sent in Japan for whatever reason. But in any case, Spider-Verse is going to win, which is good because I really like that film. So I think Spider-Verse is going to win. Okay, visual effects. Based on the theory of bigger films tend to win, I'm expecting Avengers Infinity War to win because it was sort of the largest film in the category, which is unfortunate because I actually think it's sort of the weakest work because all it is big. Ready Player One is a hot garbage, though the effects themselves are pretty good. So in my opinion, either one of those should be cut, and Mary Poppins should be added in because Mary Poppins' effects are very unique. Solo was pretty good on the effects, but it's still fairly standard Star Wars stuff. The movie itself was very unfairly maligned, and I'm really saddened by that. To me, though, the two best in the category are Christopher Robin, because of how much Pooh and Tigger look like stuffed animals talking, and doesn't fall into the uncanny valley. But in my mind, the visual effects Oscar should go to First Man, because the effects are absolutely wonderful and seamless. I don't know what is I don't know where the effects are in that film, and that's really should be the end goal. And given that the film was sort of based off of subjective personal experience, it's such a interesting use of effects. Okay, number 9 on the best pictures of the year list is this great documentary called "Won't You Be My Neighbor," which is a documentary about Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers. It's absolutely riveting. While being earnest and sincere about Fred Rogers' career, it's absolutely sort of a riveting portrait of a man that in some ways you kind of sense that perhaps he realized he was too nice. I think it's actually one of the most powerful rebukes of Trumpism on film, because Fred Rogers, which the movie very much portrays accurately, is the quintessential anti-Trump. And probably the most amazing thing is there's actually a rebuke of the damn wall in the film, which is sort of neat to me. Anyway, so number 9, go see it. Won't You Be My Neighbor? Okay, turning to sound editing. Sound editing is the actual sounds you hear. And so it's sort of like visual effects, but in the audio form. Bohemian Rhapsody is utterly baffling to me why it's getting any attention at all. I guess it being a musical and handling the music is sort of technically challenging, but whatever. Quiet Place is okay as a movie. I do like the effects, and given that sound is very important in the movie, it makes sense that it would be nominated. And I'm not thrilled with anything about those first two. Rome was very good. The scene at the end in the ocean has a very good sense of sound to it. Now, Black Panther, I think, is going to win, and it's sort of my second preference because of it being an action movie, and then it being nominated for Best Picture, and action movies tend to do well in this category. But to me, I think First Man is the visual, should be the sound editing winner, because again, it's all about the subjective consciousness, and the way in which that movie puts you in Neil Armstrong's headspace with sound and visuals is absolutely amazing. Okay, so sound mixing is the various levels of the channels. Again, Bohemian Rhapsody, I have no fucking idea why this movie is in the conversation at all. It's just sort of shitty. Again, I guess being a musical, it's sort of impressive. With that being said, there was nothing that really stood out to me. Likewise, Roma on this thing, there's actually sometimes with various dialogue scenes, it's actually, for me, was hard to hear the dialogue, so I'm not entirely sure if the mix was all that impressive. A Star Is Born is a good film. Live music, I think, is why I would mix. Again, it's not all that impressive. Now, I'm predicting Black Panther because of action film, and the two sounds tend to go together. But likewise, with sound editing, sound mixing, to me, the best mixed movie was First Man, especially since the score uses a theremin, which could have been a little bit annoying, but the mixers did a good job of balancing everything. So to me, First Man should win. Okay, coming in at number 8 in the best films of the year is Mary Poppins Returns. This movie is everything you would want from a light family musical. The score is very, very memorable. The visuals are absolutely great. It moves at a good clip. Emily Blunt is absolutely delightful, and it's amazing that given that she's competing with Julie Andrews, and Andrews' signature character, that she's able to hold her own. I was especially impressed with the way in which animation was integrated in live action. I just really, really like this film. It's very, very fun. I'm sure the author of Mary Poppins would fucking hate it, but whatever. Good film. Number 8. Okay, turning to song, which also is a relatively easy category to predict. The RBG song, I just listened to it. I'm not all that impressed. I also think it's very weird when a documentary is nominated for song, so I think that's going to do it. Likewise, I think the Ballad of Buster Scruggs is done, and given that this is one or like, I think that movie has like two nominations. It's just not strong enough, especially with Netflix. Well, I think Black Panther's song is pretty good. I think it's going. I don't think it has a chance to win because of it's not integrated into the text. The Mary Poppins song I really, really, really do like, and this is one of the Oscars that's really, really hard for me to have determined. But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to end up agreeing because the Star Is Born song "Shallow" is going to win. Because it's such a critical moment in the film, and more importantly, Lady Gaga is up for it. And given that she's also nominated for actress, it's pretty much if you're the Glenn Close Lady Gaga, it's going to be used as a makeup award. That's why it's super easy to predict this year. So, "Shallow," which I'm going to be happy about, is going to win. Okay, I always seem to struggle with this category. I think Isle of Dogs is going to win based off of the fact that Alexander Desplat, how the hell do you say his name? That was totally wrong. Won, and the Academy really does like. There seems to be an incumbency for scores, hence why John Williams has been nominated a lot. Now, with that being said, I think any of these scores would be very, very disturbing. Isle of Dog is very, very playful. Beale Street is powerful. Black Panther is really very iconic, and it really fits the text of that movie. And I like the mixing of the various rap and hip hop, and also some traditional African stuff. Black Klansman score is very, very an interesting piece of writing because it's dealing with a movie that has a very tragic comic tone, and the film and the score captures that, and it works with a very difficult text. But to my mind, this shouldn't really be all that surprising. The best score is Mary Poppins Returns, because Turning Turtle is almost as good as Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and can you imagine that? It's just such a great score. So I think Isle of Dogs is going to win, but I would prefer Mary Poppins. Okay, coming in at number 7 for the best films of the year is A Star Is Born. It's this is a great cover of the material. It's absolutely remarkable that they found a way of making this story fresh. Again, because this is it's officially the 4th remake, but there's 2 other versions of this story, and it ends up being very new and powerful. And even though all the big beats and all the things are predictable if you or known if you've seen it before, it still packs a wallop, and the score is great, and the acting is alive, and everything like that. It's a great cover of the material. So let me bring up the next category. Turning to makeup now, I'm predicting, unfortunately, Vice is going to win because it's based off of the fact that Christian Bale really looks like Dick Cheney in that movie, and most of the other actors mostly look like the people they're playing. With that being said, Vice is a piece of shit. Absolutely horrifically bad movie, and I wish it would burn in hell, basically. I fucking hated that thing. So I don't care if it's the best makeup ever. It doesn't deserve any fucking Oscars. I don't really care about this category. With that being said, I'm sort of rooting for Mary Queen of Scots because I liked the film. I thought it was a pretty good period piece. So that's pretty much it. Border was okay too. Anyway. Okay, turning to costume design. This one's also, I think, relatively easy to predict. I'm predicting Black Panther. It won the Guild Award. Then also because of all the commentary, I feel like there's going to be pressure to vote for a lot of awards for Black Panther, so it feels included. The ballad was okay, but it's sort of done in by the fact that it's a lot of male costumes. Mary Queen of Scots didn't win at the Guild, neither than Mary Poppins. Both of those are good. I like them. The favorite costumes I really liked. Thinking upon it more, I really liked the visual stuff. The costumes are sort of meaningful, but for my money, the best costumes this year, and it goes back to what I was saying when I was talking about Black Panther, is Black Panther because it has a lot of Pan-African influences, and the various factions are displayed with different sort of costumes, and it's somewhat color coded, so you get a sense of all the various factions, but also they reference, and the designs are sort of explanations from traditional African costumes. So I think it's a really interesting design. So I'm going to be happy when it wins. Okay, so number 6 on our countdown of the best pictures of the year is the wonderful Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm somewhat heartbroken that this movie was not nominated for more Oscars, because it's absolutely fantastic. It's smart. The screenplay is smart and emotionally resonant. It handles sort of an outlandish concept in a very believable, realistic way. And that concept itself, that there's just multiple of Spider-Man and anyone can wear the mask, works sort of on a social level because it's about inclusion, but it also works on sort of Joseph Campbell, a hero of 1,000 faces level, and sort of the reworking of the Spider-Man origin story is absolutely a clever twist of that. And then, of course, the movie is very striking in its animation style. So I like this movie's like Spider-Man meets Banksy meets Joseph Campbell. So it's absolutely fucking great. Okay, turning now to production design. Okay, so this is the only nomination for Roma that I thought was like, what the hell? Because the production design in that film is fine. It's just very basic. There's not that many sets, and it's basically just 1970s in Mexico, which is not all that hard. Similarly, even though I really like the film, First Man stuff has been done before, so I wasn't all that impressed with that. Mary Poppins, I know I just said it's been done before, but in Mary Poppins' case, which I think would be one of the deserving winners. The recreation from the movie from the '64 was really sort of impressive. In any case, for my money, the two heavyweights in this category are The Favorite and Black Panther. Now, I think The Favorite's going to win because of basically it won the Guild Award, but also it won. It's so well represented across all the disciplines. It's going to punch through and break win one. So I think production design. Now, for my money, I think Black Panther should win because again, it has such a great feel, and Wakanda is so well developed, and it feels very authentic to me. Okay, turning to editing now, which is a massive bellwether this year. I'm convinced whoever wins editing is going to win Best Picture because there's no clear front runner. Okay, so Vice's editor should not be nominated because he failed at his most basic job, which was not removing the shit from the movie. Which I guess in his defense, if he would have removed all the bullshit, the movie would have been like 2 minutes long. But still. Awful fucking film. Bohemian Rhapsody. I guess it's somewhat impressive that the recreation of the musical stuff, but the movie feels like a slog and doesn't have a good pace or momentum. So I'm really surprised it won the Guild Award. I'm convinced if it wins the editing award, it's going to win Best Picture. Anyway, Green Book is a very good film. Its editing, though, is just sort of straightforward. It's sort of understated. The favorite, I think, is actually going to win, which I would be perfectly okay with, which I'm good with, because of a lot of it has to do with the ending, and the ending has very technically challenging because of all those dissolves. Excuse me, but in my money, Black Klansman should win editing because of the sequence of intersplicing Birth of the Nation with the story of the lynching, because that's such a powerful series of juxtapositions. But apart from that, the movie is just very well put together. But again, I think the favorite's going to win. Okay, turning now to the number 5 Best Picture. Now, my top 5 are so close together that basically any of these, in my mind, would be deserving of Best Picture. I'm really, really shocked that for number 5 comes Bad Times at the El Royale. I'm really shocked that this film has very little presence in the award season. I know it wasn't all that well. I don't know it wasn't universally acclaimed, but neither was Vice nor Bohemian Rhapsody. And in my money, this is a great film. It's like a cross between Grand Hotel, and a Pulp Fiction, and because it feels very much like the El Royale has the location, and it's all sort of like like being stuck in purgatory, but at the same time it's put together slickly like a Quentin Tarantino film, and it makes references to various points in history, and it's extremely well acted and absolutely engaging from beginning to end. I mean, I watched it the first time and then I immediately put it on again. Now, this really isn't a thing at the Oscars, and I think it should be, but if it did exist, either casting or an ensemble, that's what this film would win, in my opinion. It's a great, sexy, sort of spiritual thriller about being caught in purgatory, but also just sort of a weird crime story. It's such a great, quirky film with fucking fantastic acting. Anyway, that's that number 5 on the list. Just so I'm clear, I would basically strip Vice of every fucking nomination and put this movie in Vice's place. And if not Vice, then definitely Bohemian Rhapsody. Both of those films are shitty in comparison, and Vice is just fucking terrible. Okay, turning now to cinematography. Interesting side note, this is the first time in history that 3 of the nominees are actually foreign language films. With that being said, I also think this category is relatively straightforward to predict. I think there's going to be tremendous pressure on voters who aren't even all fully impressed with Roma to vote for it, because Cuarón shot it himself, and so he's actually up for like 4 Oscars because he basically did everything on that film. I actually like all of the nominees. They're all very, very close to me. My favorite, though, is Roma, and I think one of the reasons why the movie has been well received as it is the black and white cinematography is absolutely gloriously moody, and the movie is absolutely wonderful to look at. It's just, again, the screenplay seems to just be hollow to me. Anyway, Never Look Away and Cold War also relatively stay good. Star is Born, I feel like there's some distortion effects at times, which is why I have it in the middle. The Favorite has actually jokes in the cinematography because, like, of being in a fish bubble at times. But in any case, Roma's going to win because I think it's going to Cuarón. It's going to be like, you know how, because he's nominated for so much, I feel like he's going to punch through here. And also, it's kind of cool to have a director actually win cinematography. Okay, turning now to adapted screenplay. I think the Oscars are going to do the Legacy Award here and have Spike Lee finally win an Oscar by awarding Black Klansman. Which is fine. Anyway, Star is Born. I think it's fucking ridiculous this movie is nominated for screenplay. Don't get me wrong, the story is good. The problem is the screenplay, like, they basically copied and pasted other versions together. The ballad is Buster Scruggs is. I feel like the Coen brothers are sleepwalking now. Can You Ever Forgive Me does a remarkable job of keeping you interested in a very unsympathetic, kind of very hard woman to even care about. That's Melissa McCarthy as well, but the screenplay is very, very good. Beale Street, I like a lot as well. It seems to handle the issues relatively well, but for my money, the best adapted screenplay, or at least in this category, is Black Klansman. It's a surprisingly tight piece of writing, given that Spike Lee has a trouble doing that. His films always feel over stuff with me. It somehow manages to be both. It's very tragic comic, and it's really an interesting piece of writing that manages to be absolutely horrifying and hysterical at the same time. Just so I'm clear, I would actually have kicked Star Wars Born out and put in Love, Simon as the one, as sort of the token nomination for Love, Simon. Anyway, moving on. Okay, turning to the number 4 on our countdown for best films of the years. It should not be really all that surprising, given that I would have it win 2 Oscars, that my 4th best film of this year is Black Klansman. One thing I want to say about this, I'm really surprised that Topher Grace has not gotten any attention. I actually think he's sort of the best part of that movie, because the movie is daring you to laugh at the Klan, and then sort of rubs your nose in it when you do. And not only is Topher Grace sort of a brilliant David Duke, just on the basic level of acting, but he's also given that he's Eric Foreman, the intersexuality is very, very funny. I really like this movie. I really like how it handles the material. And again, it's very emotionally gripping. I like that the movie absolutely this is a I think you can argue this is a comedy that you shouldn't laugh at. And the use of the Unite the Right rally stuff, where Heather Heyer, I hope I'm getting that name right, got killed, absolutely is a gut punch. And the movie is well acted. It's a great film. I like that the manages to work in talking about cinematic representation of African Americans from multiple perspectives. And again, that sequence of the first man of the lynching being balanced with A Birth of a Nation is very, very powerful. It's a great fucking film. Okay, turning now to original screenplay. I'm going to predict Green Book is going to win in this category as sort of, because of Nick Vallelonga. It sort of makes a nice story, and then also sort of a legacy award for Farrell. Anyway, Vice is fucking terrible, and I think most of the problems are in the screenplay because of the goddamn use of voiceover narration and the whole talking down to you, and the fact that the film makes it utterly clear that Adam McKee thinks you're a fucking moron, and that's all on the page. Not that the direction or acting is all that much better, but I think most of the reason why that movie is so shitty is its screenplay, so it's absolutely gobsmacking and fucking awful that the screenplay is nominated. Fuck that film. Anyway, Roma, again, I like the film, and I realize it's supposed to be like a slice of life, but it feels very rudderless, and not very well thought out. It makes the film kind of hollow to me. And yes, I get that the social economic tensions because of being indigenous, etc. First Reform was a great, pretty good film. I'm glad it got a nomination. Now, Green Book, I really like this film, and I'm going to have more to say about it. I think the screenplay is a strength of the film, so I'm not going to be all that upset when it wins. But for my money, the favorite should win Best Original Screenplay, because if you write down at the beginning of the film, anything that is witty or clever that happens, you are basically writing out the entire film. And the movie is absolutely hysterical, and it handles everything just perfectly, and it's all on the page. Okay, so the DGA is the single most reliable indicator, and Alfonso Cuarón just won it again. So I'm going to bet that he's going to win it for the Oscars, though it's a little bit questionable this time because of being Netflix and then also foreign language. Anyway, Vice is fucking terrible, and Adam McKay should not have been nominated at all. And I would have cut him out and put in Damien Chazelle for First Man. Cold War, I like. I understand why someone else might be a little bit more enamored. It's kind of cool that 2 of the 5 nominees are for foreign language films. So yeah, I think that's it won by being nominated. Anyway, so like I said, Roma is probably going to win because of the DGA. In any case, I like the visual construction in Roma. It's very interesting to see a period piece that strives to be objective, and the way in which he keeps the camera still is a really good way of doing that. BlacKkKlansman is one of the better Spike Lee films, and I really like the film. Lee he tends to try to say too many things at once, and I feel like he's still doing that in BlacKkKlansman, but he seems to have cut back on it in any case. The Favorite's exceptionally well directed, and of the nominees, it's the film I am rooting for, but I am gobsmacked because of the controversy in First Man just sort of collapsing in on itself, that Damien Chazelle was not nominated. Now, I would award First Man Best Direction because the way in which the film places you in the subjective headspace of Neil Armstrong is absolutely amazing, and the film is truly the work of an auteur. And I mean, that's also true of Roma, because Roma also feels like a auteur film, but First Man's great. Okay, given that just what happened, this should not come as a surprise, but number 3 on my list is the wonderfully ambiguous First Man. This movie is absolutely incredible. I am beyond pissed off the trumped up intended flag controversy sort of sank it both at the box office, and then also it became too toxic to touch from the Oscars. It's wonderfully ambiguous. The question of whether or not going to the moon was worth it in terms of money and his Neil Armstrong's personal sacrifice and the lives lost hangs over the entire film. It puts you in Armstrong's headspace and everything like that. Ryan Gosling and Clara Flor are wonderful in it, and it's striking. And the best part of it is when this movie was announced, given that Damien Chazelle has been I've been a fan of his, I was kind of off put because I thought the movie was sort of a weird step for him in his career, but I didn't see the connection to it between Whiplash and La La Land. But having rewatched this film several times, it's actually a very natural progression, because the way in which he structures it, it's about whether or not because Neil Armstrong also sort of suffers in the context of the movie. He's driven by emotional trauma, so it's another version of through great suffering, greatness in a narrow sense of being a human is the only way it's possible. So Neil Armstrong, in the movie, feels very much like Andrew in Whiplash, and Seb in La La Land, where they're sort of very myopic and singular focused, but by being singular focused, they accomplish greatness, and it has that maddening ambiguity that Whiplash and La La Land have around this point. And it's such a great film. Anyway, yeah. Okay, I think supporting actress is going to go to Regina King from Beale Street, and it's based off of the notion that I want to get to supporting actor, that they just tend to do this. Okay, Amy Adams is awful. Everything is awful in Vice, but turning Lynn Cheney into Lady Macbeth, I don't think really works. And she's badly mismatched with Bale, which I'm not sure if it's her or if it's him. So they both sort of are awful. I like Regina King's performance in Beale Street. She'd be a worthwhile winner. Her performance is very, very powerful. Likewise, Marina de Maria in Roma. I'm glad she got nominated. She's given sort of a hard character to play, because you're not quite sure what the hell is going on in their marriage, but she manages to convey at least something is wrong, and at least give the screenplay some direction and shape to it. But in my mind, and it was really hard to pick which one, Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone are absolutely delightful bitches and catty with each other in The Favorite, and there's absolutely watching them go back and forth is absolutely amazing. With that being said, I ever so slightly prefer Emma Stone in The Favorite, and the reason for it is kind of specific. It's the scene on her wedding night where she has that monologue while giving her guy she married only for to further her own ambition, a hand job, and the way in which Emma Stone plays that scene is so remarkably calculating and shrewd and so indifferent and mechanical that it's absolutely great. Anyway, so supporting actress I think is going to go to Regina King. Okay, turning now to supporting actor. Sam Rockwell in Vice is awful because he doesn't mesh with Bale, and it's just like Amy Adams. I'm not sure who's at fault, if it's Bale, who's also terrible in the film, in a sense. In any case, he doesn't seem to be playing George W. Bush. He seems to be playing Will Ferrell playing George W. Bush, and that's not remotely the same thing. And in any case, his comedic timing is all off, and so his performance is nothing is funny in that fucking piece of shit. And he comes across as in an entirely different movie than everyone else. Any case, I am really glad that Richard E. Grant got a nomination. I really liked him in Can You Ever Forgive Me? I don't think he's going to win. I wouldn't want him to win, but I really like Richard Grant. He plays George in Gosford Park. This is very much a career nomination. Sam Elliott is good in A Star Is Born. I'm kind of surprised he got nominated. It's been very hit or miss with him through the precursors. Excuse me. In any case, I don't expect him to win. I think he has something of an outside chance as like a career award. Then you also, any case, Adam Driver. He's not going to win. He's not the Topher Grace is the best part, but he's a close third. Washington, the lead, is better than him, as is appropriate to the story. In any case, he's memorizing in BlacKkKlansman. But in any case, I think Ali from Green Book is going to win because he's won every precursor, and more importantly, he gives an absolutely delightful, complex turn of a very complicated character, where he can come across as sort of like I don't want to say caricature, but he could come across as just a series of quirks. But he makes Doc very, very alive, and his comedic timing and his chemistry with Mortensen is fantastic. Okay, turning now to the Coming in a very, very close second. And my best picture list is The Favorite, which should not be all that surprising given that I had it when supporting actress. And some others and original screenplay and everything like that. And it's in any case, this movie is absolutely wonderfully complex. It works as a genre deconstruction, making the point that the past is just as fucked up. Queen Anne is sort of a Trumpian figure, and you can read sort of the spicy subtext around that with her sort of her incompetence and vanity standing in for Trump in a sense. Though the movie is obviously more interested in that and wider things than that. It sort of works as sort of a fucked up love triangle because of the lesbianism and themes in the movie. It's absolutely a vicious political satire. It's also watching two actresses in Weiss and Stone trying to one-up each other, everything like that. But it's also magnificently visually structured in such a way where this is actually an issue I had with the film initially, and I thought the movie made the visuals were too lush and too pretty, but thinking upon it more, it seemed to be ever so slightly off, and so you have a brilliant layer of irony where you have like the fishbowl lensing, which is a subtle mockery of the genre. So it all works on all those multiple levels, and it's so close in my mind to what I want have as best picture. The Favorite would pull off an upset win. It would be absolutely acceptable to me because it is such a grand film. I also have to say this. I really, really, really like the director. I'm not going to try to say his name because he's also made The Lobster, which is also a very fascinating film. And The Favorite is also just sort of delightfully weird in places. So you have that sequence when you are throwing when you have the guy who's naked having apples or tomatoes thrown at him just for like the court gesture, which is also amusing. And then the other thing is Nicholas Hoult is absolutely hysterical. Basically, he's sort of like Hugh Griffith and Tom Jones, where basically everything out of his mouth is hysterical and vulgar. I'm also sort of surprised he hasn't gotten attention, especially since the whole genre deconstruction, he carries that initially because he makes sort of the first joke in the film by calling Rachel Weisz a cunt, and the way in which Holt says it is perfect for the setting up the tone of the movie. Anyway, turning now to actress, I actually think this category is going to be very interesting. I think ultimately Glenn Close is going to get her career Oscar because of The Wife, but it's something of a bellwether. If Olivia Colman, who's Queen Anne in The Favorite, wins, it's a very good sign for Best Picture because it means Glenn Close and Lady Gaga split the category enough that it's going to allow The Favorite to win Best Picture. Anyway, Glenn Close is sleepwalking in The Wife, so I'm particularly upset that she's probably going to win. Melissa McCarthy's really good, and Can You Ever Forgive Me, especially since she's unsympathetic. Roma, the girl there, I'm not going to try to say her name, sorry. I like her performance a lot. It's very touching, especially since she's not a professional actress and this is like her first role. Lady Gaga on A Star Is Born is absolutely great. And she gives very much a real performance. But for my money, and again, this shouldn't be all that surprising, Olivia Colman as Queen Anne gives an absolutely hysterical turn, but that is also very, very painful in places. And this is another thing that took me a while to fully grapple with, because she's not just an object of mockery. The movie actually feels bad for her, where Emma Stone's character is actually the true object of mockery. Anyway, so I hope she wins, but I really think it's going to be Glenn Close. Okay, like I said last year, there's always one category where I seem to hate most of the nominees, and this year it was actor. Christian Bale gives a terrible performance in Vice, because it's badly miscalculated in terms of the tone and the actual style of the movie. It's a very good Chaney impression, in the sense that he really does look and sound like Chaney. I think he uses the Chaney growl a little bit too much, but the Chaney in Vice is not really Dick Cheney. It's supposed to be satirical, so his accuracy in terms of acting like Dick Cheney doesn't fit the script or anyone else. Adam McKee should have stepped in and talked to him about it, because it's so bad. It basically, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing that goes right with that movie, but Christian Bale's performance is so badly miscalculated that it probably would have sunk a better script and a better director. Okay, Rami Malek, I think, is going to win because he's won basically everything else. I really dislike this performance. There's an uncanny valley aspect because he's not quite perfect, and so when Freddie Mercury's voice comes out of his mouth, it doesn't feel right. William Dafoe is sort of sleepwalking at Eternity's Gate. I'm not really sure why he's nominated. It's a better performance than the first two. Bradley Cooper is very good in A Star Is Born, and at least he gives a good performance. Now, Viggo Mortensen is very good, and very good in Green Book. It's a very unusual character for him. It's a comedic role. I want him to play more comedic parts because of this thing, and the best part of it is Tony Lip, the guy, is such a larger than life character. It's a very hard character to pull off, and he's absolutely perfect as Tony Lip, and he makes a guy who could be a cartoon feel like a real life cartoon, which is almost impossible to do. It's easily the best performance in the category. Unfortunately, I think Rami Malek is going to win. Anyway. Okay, so the Best Picture group was actually fairly good, other than fucking Vice. And to a lesser extent, Bohemian Rhapsody. Vice is a film that I loathe with the burning passion of 10,000 Suns. It is the worst film I've seen in about 5 years. It is the film I've had the most visceral hatred for at least 15 years, going back to like Phantom of the Opera. It might be longer. I'm sure I've expressed this. It's not funny. It talks down to you. It explains civics 101 or 201 in the most hackneyed way with constant voiceover narration. The plot line or storyline is meandering, and not very coherent. There's certain things which are just thrown in for no apparent fucking reason in terms of either the plot or satirical. Like the bit about Chaney shooting the guy in the face on purpose or accidentally is in there for some goddamn reason, etc. And the movie Vice, the movie is is so over the top and obvious that Dick Cheney heartlessness is shown because when he does the most heartless act, he's is juxtaposed when he's having a heart transplant, so you literally see his heart missing, and it's like, fuck you. And then that would all just be mediocre. The movie really becomes detestable because there's several jokes in it where the Adam McKee clearly thinks most Americans and most people watching the films are fucking morons who are distracted by Hollywood products, which would be obnoxious. The thing is, during the build-up to the Iraq War, Adam McKee was making fucking Anchorman, and he has no, like, clean the fucking plank out of your own eye first. I fucking hate this film, and anything, it should not be nominated for any fucking thing. Damn it. Okay, I've somewhat calmed down. Bohemian Rhapsody is also thoroughly mediocre, and it's not so much hateable or detestable. It's just, I don't understand why anybody would like it other than outside of the musical scenes, which, again, to be fair, that's like a third of the movie, maybe 40% is relatively engaging. It's a very shallow, paint-by-numbers biopic or docudrama. I don't find it particularly all that engaging at all. It's sort of a slog to sit through. The Live Aid scene, it is very good, and the Live Aid scene is the best scene in the movie, so maybe it's just warm fuzzies from that, because it's the last scene in the movie. But it just seems so middlebrow and pedestrian to me that I don't understand why it's in the conversation outside of Rami Malek, because impersonations always seem to have award attention. Roma, I don't really like this film. I mean, I like the film somewhat overall. I just don't think it's a particular film for me. It's very well put together. I can understand why someone would be really enamored with it. I find it too slice of life. I don't want to say it would be, like, I'm pretty neutral. If it happens to win Best Picture, which I'm not sure at this moment because I'm waiting on the DGA when I'm recording this particular section. If it happens to win, it would be an acceptable winner, I guess. Okay, Black Panther, I absolutely adore that this movie got nominated for Best Picture. It should be there. It's a very, very good example of the genre that's been saving Hollywood's ass for the last 10 years, and it's very deals with the African diaspora in a very interesting way. Star is Born, really getting into the thick of it. I really love that this film is a great cover. I'm still annoyed at them for the Golden Globes thing, but in any case, it's a very good, emotionally resonant, updated of a classic. I'm glad it's in the conversation. Black Klansman is a very, again, I think it's a comedy that you shouldn't laugh at, which is very, very weird to think about, but it's a great film. It would be a very worthwhile winner. It would absolutely be a career award, though, for Spike Lee, which is why I'm kind of not running for it. The favorite, again, the last two movies in the group, it's so hard, like, they're so close together. The last three, especially with First Man. But in any case, the favorite, it just isn't quite accessible to be a Best Picture. And so in my mind, the best film of this year, in terms of what should win Best Picture, and then also sort of like my personal favorite, is Green Book. Now, before I get into this, I want to say the controversy around it being a white savior and or a magic Negro. I hate the name of that trope, but that's the name of the trope film. If you want to complain and you dislike the movie for those reasons, that's fine. I think you can read the text in that way, and I understand why that might annoy people. On the other hand, I don't see the film as really ultimately conforming to that, because I think the film is much more personally focused, and the differences between Tony Lip and Doc aren't just race. They're also education, sexual orientation, economic status, etc. So while the movie mostly deals with racism in terms of social differences, but it's much more about, to me, it's much more the way in which these various differences in identity manifest themselves in interpersonal relationships. And I know that's been done before But to me, it's such an engaging, heartwarming story that, yeah, you can criticize it on those grounds, but ultimately, I think the movie sort of justifies itself because, unlike what I think most detractors say, that the movie like claims that through the power of friendship, racism can be overcome. I don't think it actually is saying that. I think it's saying differences in social identity can be overcome on a one-by-one basis if given enough time. I think people put too much sociological weight onto what the book is doing. The movie is doing. The movie is more personal, not political. Now, there's political aspects because it is dealing with segregation and racism, but I think it's more. I think the movie is tangentially interested in those things, where it's much more about a family being told this great, passing along this story of these two, in a sense, larger than life characters. And there's, again, maybe it's the road trip movie thing, because I really like road trips. It's very well acted, and it's such an engaging dramedy that it's absolutely life-affirming and lovable to me. Now, I'm still waiting for the DGA to come in when I'm recording this section, so I'm going to save my prediction for the last minute. Because I gotta wait for the DGA, but I wanted to get this recorded. Again, if you have a problem with the Driving Miss Daisy problem with Green Book, I don't, but I really like this film because of how human and life-affirming I find it. Okay, now that the DGA has finally stopped fucking around, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be Roma's gonna win Best Picture, because of it. It's sort of the one. It doesn't have editing. It's so hard to know. I'm gonna go with Roma, just based off entirely on the DGA, the strength of the DGA, even though they've been separating as of late. And then also the most number of nominations. It would be cool because it's a Best Picture. That's a foreign language film. So anyway, I'll see you guys later.